So today I just wanted to do a video all about how I pay for my tattoos. It's probably one of the most popular questions I get asked. I've answered it in a variety of ways over the years, but I needed something easier to point people to when they ask, because so many people ask how I even have a job, or who would possibly hire me looking like I do, and all of these different things. If I'm independently wealthy. Some people think I'm on welfare or social assistance of some form, because how could someone with this many tattoos and piercings and stuff possibly get a job? Uh, but it's none of those things. I've been gainfully employed my entire adult life and most of my teenage life. I've been a cook for, I guess it's been 19 years now. I always say 18, but I guess I'm a year older now. So I started cooking when I was 14, and I've been in one kitchen or another ever since. When I started cooking, I already had many piercings. I've been at the same job now for the last 15 or 16 years. Was actually given a watch a few years ago to celebrate the length of time that I've worked there, because I'm the longest tenured cook that's ever worked there. A few years ago, I actually went and got my red seal, but it wasn't really because I needed it or anything like that. I just thought, if I've been doing this long, I may as well have the papers too. And as I've basically been running the show where I work for the last 8 or 9 years anyway, it was just nice to have that certificate to show I knew my stuff. And if I ever did want to find a job anywhere else, then that would be an asset too. So obviously, when you stay at a place for a long time, you end up making quite a bit more money than you start at, if you're any good at it generally. And there was a time when I was making around twice minimum wage. I'm not anymore, because minimum wage has gone up quite a bit, but I'm still quite a bit over the minimum. And it's actually pretty hard for me to find anything that would pay me similar money just to walk into now. That's why even when I think about doing piercing, and I've talked about managing the shop that I get tattooed at, it would be a pay drop for me. But that's about it. That might be the best for me long term. I don't know how long I want to cook for. I know I can do it for quite a bit longer, but might want to get into something else eventually. So it's nice to have options. And I do have quite a few options now. But to get into how the actual tattoos have been paid for, earlier in my life, I couldn't afford to get tattooed. I was spending my money on whatever, video games, women. I would oftentimes find myself being with women that didn't work and being the breadwinner. I ended up buying my own house, single income, when I was 25, and supporting a girl that I met from Ontario who came to live here with me. She never ended up getting a job, and I was the only income. She smoked, so I had to buy her cigarettes. And again, I ended up buying the house that I was renting. It's still the house that I'm in now. So I've owned this house for, 8 years, I guess, now. And it's not huge. It's not anything special, but it's safe and it's ours. And I'll probably pay it off by the time I'm 42, 43. And then I plan on buying another house. But anyway, so I was able to save up enough money to put down a down payment on this house. And after that, my mortgage was cheaper than my rent. So I was saving more money that way. Now, a couple years later, I had stopped seeing that girl, and I'd gone through another relationship similar to that. And I ended up being single for about a year there, and putting all of my money that I was making for all those years to my own uses. And I had all these different ideas about what I wanted to get tattooed for many years, and I wasn't making enough money, or I was spending it on things that weren't, good uses of my money, we'll say. And so coupling those two things together, I was able to start getting tattooed more often. Previously, I'd been only getting tattooed maybe once every 3 or 4 months, sometimes less. When I was buying the house, I didn't get tattooed for about a year, and it sucked because I would see people getting tattooed and think, I wish I had that kind of money. And it turned out I actually did have that kind of money. I just wasn't budgeting it correctly, because it was only about a year or two after I was thinking things like that I started getting tattooed a couple times a week, sometimes as much as 3 times a week. And the pace accelerated rapidly. It's where one of those things where people will see, I'll do flashbacks to, say, 2015, and I didn't even have full sleeves yet. But in my mind, I did. I just hadn't gotten there yet. So, like, the pain wasn't going to be a detriment. The money was no longer a detriment because I had been using it on so many other things, and now I wasn't. That now all of these things that I wanted to do were all of a sudden possible for me. So it was just about getting there. I ended up working with a lot of the same artists quite a bit, and as they got to know me better, they would give me better and better deals. And as I was around more often, all of a sudden an hour and a half was an hour, 3.5 hours became 2.5 hours, whatever. Not saying it always works out that way. There was only one artist, though, that was tattooing me at the time. I think I was seeing around 5 people in 2015 and 2016. I was seeing 5 different artists, and there's only one of them that didn't decrease their prices the more I did with them. But yeah, my first bodysuit was mainly made up by a whole bunch of different artists, and it was my inspiration that kind of brought it all together. But yeah, most of those artists were getting cheaper the more I worked with them. I ended up just in the end working with just 2 artists for the next few years after that. And I was getting deals from both of them, and I was seeing one on Wednesday and one on Thursday, and I would only spend what most people would spend on one tattoo on both tattoos, because I knew them both quite well. I was actually pretty close friends with both of them. One of them being Lee, who did most of the blackout work on my torso, and the other one being the one that did the eye, the original eye, and the tentacles that I covered up that were quite problematic. I've done quite a few videos talking about all that, but yeah, those deals just kind of kept getting better and better, and then it ended up getting to the point where I had my tattoo artist Lee was at my wedding, and we became real good friends, and he ended up, sometimes he would tattoo me even for free. So then when he left to Kelowna to start a new shop, he didn't want me to stop getting tattooed, but he also knew that I'd been getting really good deals for a long time, and he wanted to kind of work with me to find a way that it could be tenable long-term for me, because he knew that I already knew who I was going to work with next was going to be Rick, and I'd already worked with Rick a lot in the past. That's the guy who's doing all the work on me now and did my blackout legs and stuff like that. And to continue that, so that I would get tattooed the same way I was getting tattooed with him, he took a hit on his end, and Rick took a hit on his end. So Rick got a little less, and the shop got a little less, but I was able to pay a weekly amount that I could continue on a weekly basis at that time, and not be priced out kind of thing, because they wanted to keep me coming in, and the work we were doing was pretty important. And at that point, my social media was already pretty big, and so I was doing a lot of advertisement for the shop and things like that already. We were already talking about doing the podcast and different things. So I guess the long point here that I'm making is it does pay to do return business to the same artists, especially in smaller cities. I would imagine that bigger cities aren't probably going to be as much like that, but the more familiar you get with a shop or with an artist, the better that working relationship gets. And if you're working on something like a big torso project, you can probably expect a better deal than you're going to get from a walk-in somewhere where you just go in and get one tattoo. Because a lot of my work was done. I started out paying the big prices, and I ended up paying roughly half of that each session, or even less than half sometimes. Again, not saying it always works out that way, but that's been the way it's worked out for me. I've been the benefiter of a lot of goodwill, but I've also had a lot of goodwill towards my artists too. I've been a really good client. I've been really disciplined and faithful to my artists, and also just being a really, really good employee too, and at times a really good boss. Has helped me save the money, make the money it's taken to get to this point, and yeah, just having the drive to do it too, really, because I would have never believed that I could have paid for all of this work if you had just showed me on paper, you're going to have 1,000 hours of tattoos, which is roughly where I'm at now. And not only are you going to have that, but you're going to be well above that by the time you're done. That's just where you are in 2021. By the time I'm 2025, that'll probably be 12, 13, 1,400 hours. And I have no doubt that I can pay for all of that. It was just a mindset change and discipline for me, because I don't feel like that's unique to me. I don't feel like that what I talked about it getting a little bit cheaper the more I did and all that. I think that's probably going to happen a lot, and I'm sure that other people will have similar stories like that. I also think that isn't a guarantee either, but I'm not independently wealthy, and I'm not a trust fund baby or anything like that. I'm not on social assistance. I'm just a guy who's working 6 days a week for 50, 55 hours a week every week. And I keep my bills low, and I don't have too many vices. Tattooing is my only vice. I've had people actually ask me if I feel bad that I haven't spent more of my money on my son or anything else like that. And no, I don't feel bad about any of that, because my son has everything he needs, and I already have lots of money saved for him too. That's part of having your life in order, is once you have everything moving the right way, then you can spend a little bit of money on what you want too. You don't have to give up everything. I think that's a lot of the reason why people get so unhappy as they age, is because they start getting bills coming in, and they end up with too many vices to cope with how hard life is, and they end up not doing the things that they want to do anymore because of this reason or that reason. They make this excuse or that excuse, and then they live a life of resentment, and I wasn't willing to do that. I was doing that for a while, but at no point in my life in the future am I going to slow down on anything I want to do again. And yeah, it's been real simple for me. It hasn't been anything extravagant. I never won the lottery. I just worked hard and stayed determined and disciplined, and I got there in the end. It wasn't a sprint, it was a marathon, and that's been my entire tattoo journey anyway. Because if I had it my way, as I said before, and one of my why I blacked out videos is, I would have had my first bodysuit done from an inspiration standpoint when I was 21 or 22. I had all of the ideas already. I just wasn't able to pay for it or get there until I was much older. And I think that's a lot of the time what happens, is you don't have that financial freedom until you get a bit older. So if you're out there right now watching this and you're struggling to afford tattoos now, just know that there's going to come a time in your life when it will be easier to access that than it is now. That's a guarantee. As long as you stay committed and you stay interested in it, there will come a time when it's possible. Anyway, I've ranted a lot, and I just wanted to make this video. I've been wanting to make this one for a while, and I hope that it's answered some questions some people have out there, and I hope that it's something I can refer people to periodically in the future. So, I'll talk to you guys again soon.